Escaping from North Korea is an almost impossible mission. This nation, the most secretive in the world, poses a formidable challenge for those attempting to flee. Confronting a multitude of obstacles is just the beginning. Those who are captured in the attempt face a cruel fate, both for themselves and their families. But is it really possible to escape from North Korea? What options are available? South Korea stands out as the best destination for North Koreans for several significant reasons. They share the same language and enjoy a per capita GDP about 50 times higher. More crucially, South Korea automatically grants citizenship to arriving North Koreans, facilitating their integration. Despite the two Koreas being physically contiguous, the path North Koreans must take to reach South Korea is one of the most difficult in the world. In the 1990s, following the collapse of the Soviet Union and a devastating famine that claimed 1 million lives, the number of defectors increased dramatically. However, since 2012, the North Korean regime under Kim Jong-un intensified security measures to stop defectors. These measures include increased military presence on the northern border, the implementation of advanced technologies like surveillance cameras and motion sensors, as well as the use of signal jammers and heightened monitoring of phone communications. Taller fences have been built and thousands of landmines have been planted along key border crossings. Furthermore, penalties for defectors and those who aid them, including border guards, have been tightened. Diplomatically, North Korea has exerted pressure on neighboring countries like China and Russia, signing agreements to deport defectors captured within their territories. With the onset of the pandemic in 2020, North Korea seized the opportunity to further fortify its borders with China and Russia, even constructing double walls in some sections. Thousands of surveillance posts have been installed along hundreds of kilometers, turning the North Korean border into one of the most impenetrable in the world. Despite all these obstacles, some desperate North Koreans still attempt to escape. The inter-Korean border, known as the Korean Demilitarized Zone, with its high walls, electrified barbed wire, and landmines, is a testament to human determination in the face of oppression. One of the most notable cases was that of soldier Oh Chung-song, who defected in 2017. Despite being shot at by his own North Korean comrades, he managed to cross the border and was rescued by South Korean guards, becoming a symbol of the struggle for freedom. In summary, the possibility of escaping from North Korea is extremely difficult and dangerous. Despite the hardships, some North Koreans continue to seek freedom and a better life in South Korea, defying the harsh conditions imposed by one of the most closed regimes in the world. This translates into the fact that for a North Korean, acquiring a boat and using it to defect southward is practically impossible. Thus, only one option remains: swimming. This was precisely what Chulin Lee did in 2017, a North Korean spy working for the National Intelligence Service. Lee decided to defect due to North Korea's bleak future and severe lack of freedom, despite being an elite worker. Lee had his first encounter with a South Korean in 2007 when the South Korean Red Cross delivered a shipment of rice. It was then that he discovered South Korea was not what he had been taught, but a country with limited freedom and scarcity problems. This shift in perspective led him to wait 9 years before embarking on his journey. Along with a friend, on a September night, they set out to swim across the Yellow Sea. The journey was only 6 kilometers. They carried an air tube, an air pump, which turned out to be useless for inflating the deflated tire they had, so they discarded it, packs of food, and water. After swimming for 2 hours fully clothed, they discarded their food, shoes, and pants to lighten their load. After another 4 or 5 hours, they spotted a boat and, thinking it was a North Korean patrol, swam towards a nearby uninhabited island, which turned out to be South Korean territory. It was a cold September night, so they covered themselves with trash found on the island and managed to fall asleep. The next morning, they attempted to continue swimming but, filled with fear, they constructed a small makeshift raft using pallets and rigid foam from the island. After some time at sea, a South Korean boat detected them using its thermal scanner and rescued them. They had spent a total of 8 hours swimming in the sea. The third route to reach South Korea is through Japan, which politically is the best option since from there you can be sent to South Korea. However, crossing the Sea of Japan requires a boat, which is quite complicated. In 1987, 13 people managed to arrive with a stolen boat. In 2007, a family of 4, and in 2011, 9 more people. These are the only 3 documented successful cases of North Korean defectors arriving in Japan by boat, illustrating how extremely difficult this route is. We then move to the 4th route, which is through the border with Russia. This is Russia's shortest international border, at only 17 kilometers, all along the Tumen River. There is not a single stretch of land on this border, which means the best opportunity for defectors is to cross when the river is frozen in winter. They then face a 300 kilometers journey through Siberia, where temperatures can drop to minus 30 degrees Celsius, until they reach the South Korean embassy in Vladivostok, all without being detected by authorities who would deport them back to North Korea, making this an almost impossible mission. The 5th route is through the border with China, which is also fortified with double walls to prevent defections. However, not the entire border is covered and most of it is a river, the Yalu River. It is easier to cross when it is frozen. Unlike Russia, China shares a 1,350 kilometers border with North Korea, making it a more feasible option. The main risk remains that if authorities identify you as North Korean, they will immediately imprison or deport you. An advantage of choosing this route is that upon crossing the border is the Korean Autonomous Prefecture of Yanbian, where many residents are of Korean ethnicity who settled a century ago. Defectors can find some help, rest, and food in the area while avoiding authorities who might be searching for them. The logical next step could be to head to the nearest South Korean embassy in the city of Shenyang, which is between 250 and 800 kilometers from the border, depending on the crossing point. China is responsible for policing the surroundings of this place to prevent such defections. Not only this embassy, but all South Korean embassies in the country are highly guarded. This brings us to the 6th escape route, crossing China to reach Mongolia, a country that will send you to South Korea for free. To get here, they will have to travel over 1,000 kilometers and then choose between crossing the Gobi Desert or circumventing it from the north, an area with extremely low temperatures. There is a very famous speech, perhaps you've already seen it, by a North Korean woman named Youngmi Park, who narrates how she escaped in 2007 through China and the Gobi Desert to reach Mongolia with her mother. She is now a human rights advocate, has a YouTube channel, and has written several books about her experience. Youngmi Park recounts a journey that lasted 2 years, and at some point they fell into a human trafficking network, from which they managed to escape thanks to humanitarian activists. Some people criticize that her story is exaggerated to sell and gain notoriety, but the truth is they managed to escape through the Gobi Desert to reach Mongolia. I'll leave you the links in the description in case you're interested in learning more. The 7th escape route is the longest of all, crossing all of China to reach a Southeast Asian country. I say Southeast Asia because Western China is tremendously disconnected from the rest of the country. There are barely any roads or trains, so there is a greater risk of being identified or falling into a human trafficking network. Additionally, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan are pro-Russian countries, increasing the danger of deportation to North Korea. Then there is Afghanistan, under Taliban rule, and there isn't even a road connecting China to that country. Crossing to Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, or Bhutan means crossing the Himalayas, an extreme challenge. Myanmar and Laos are hostile to North Korean refugees and deport them back. Historically, Vietnam also did so, but recent South Korean investments are balancing the situation, although it is still a matter of luck whether they deport you or not. The best option in this area is Thailand. In fact, many North Korean defectors choose this route. But it is the longest. How do they do it? The most popular option is usually to arrive by bus or train in Kunming, where the largest bus and train stations in the border area with Thailand are located, ideal for going unnoticed due to the large influx of travelers. But here's the catch. China and Thailand do not share a border, so you have to choose which country to cross. Myanmar or Laos are the options, both hostile. Fortunately, this entire area is very sparsely populated, making it an excellent area to go unnoticed. But there's a drawback. It's a jungle region and tremendously dangerous due to the flora and fauna that inhabit it. To get this far, many North Koreans receive help from a family member who has already escaped to South Korea and who has been able to save up to pay a Chinese intermediary. What are the prices? For example, in 2019, Jo Eun-il's family, who already lived in South Korea, paid $5,000 to a Chinese intermediary to plan their entire escape route to Thailand, as he was one of the highest-rated intermediaries for his government contacts. But not all journeys are like Jo Eun-il's, who paid an intermediary and arrived safely at his destination. Things can complicate at any moment, even with the use of these services. This was the case with the journey of Park Hun-wo and his father, two railway workers, in February 2017. They both managed to cross the border into China while the river was frozen, and on the other side, a relative awaited them who helped them spend the night safely. 3 days later, they took a train to Shenyang and from there another to Jinzhou. They stayed at the home of one of the South Korean pastors who would assist them. They then took an overnight train to Beijing, and from there, they took a series of 6 buses to Kunming, their final destination. But when they were close to arriving, they stopped at a gas station and the father noticed something strange. Chinese police approached them and both hurried to escape, each separately. The son hid in a mountain cemetery, surviving on food left by visitors for their deceased. When there was no more food, he returned to the village and managed to get a phone signal there. He contacted the intermediaries, who drove him by car to Kunming. Once there, with the help of a local guide, he began crossing the jungle region of northern Laos. Finally, he managed to reach Thailand, where authorities sent him to South Korea. But what about the father? He also managed to escape from the police at the gas station, but he was later detained on a bus just before crossing the border into Laos and sent to a prison in Liaoning, a border region with North Korea. It was then that his family embarked on a series of lawsuits, protests, and pressures on South Korean, American, and United Nations politicians to bring his father home. Finally, after more than a year, the Chinese authorities released him. Lee had to make the journey south again with the help of intermediaries. However, this time he successfully reached his destination, which was Vietnam this time, and from there he was sent to South Korea. A journey that lasted a total of 1.5 years and covered more than 8,000 kilometers, a distance similar to that between Spain and Mexico or between the United States and Uruguay. These are the 7 options that North Koreans have to achieve freedom. If you have a bit of empathy, you will have understood the extreme desperation these people suffer to be willing to risk their lives in this way. And as if that weren't enough, even once the defectors have reached South Korea and are enjoying their new nationality, they cannot be 100% safe. There have been some cases of fishermen kidnapped by North Korea while at sea near the border. But the most publicized case of all was that of Yin Gyeon-suk, a defector who had been in South Korea since 2002. 2 years later, on her honeymoon, the couple traveled to China near the North Korean border, where they had arranged to meet a North Korean to deliver a video camera and have it smuggled into the country to retrieve footage. However, the smugglers' plan was a trap, and instead, men appeared who kidnapped her and took her to the Chongjin concentration camp, where she would die 6 months later. For all these reasons, North Korea is undoubtedly the most difficult country in the world to escape from, becoming an almost impossible mission. It is literally a country turned into a prison. You may complain about where you live, but it will never be worse than North Korea, especially if you want to emigrate. Now imagine you were North Korean. Do you think you could successfully escape to South Korea using one of these 7 routes? Share your answer in the comments and subscribe to see more videos like this.